Longsword is a popular weapon choice in Monster Hunter, featuring flashy combos and an emphasis on devastating counterattacks. It's a weapon that's easy to pick up and play with, and comes with a lot of nuance that makes it hard to master, making it great for beginners and veterans alike. If you're looking to learn the way of the blade, look no further. We'll cover the basics and some advanced tactics for this huge weapon in Monster Hunter Wilds. The Longsword at its core is a weapon that has two phases to its gameplay, a building phase and a spending phase. You'll be spending around half of the time building up the spirit gauge, a small bar that sits below your sharpness and health gauges. The rest of the time you will be focused on dishing out as much damage as you can in a small window. The spirit gauge has 4 levels, represented by the outline of this sword-shaped gauge. Starting from uncharged, you progress through white, yellow, and red level. Each increase in level increases your weapon's attack power, with the final red level also augmenting the moveset of the weapon. You'll want to get to red and stay in red for as long as possible before it resets, and you've got to build your spirit gauge back up. There are a few ways you can increase your spirit gauge level. Your bread and butter for this is to execute spirit combos, a series of powerful slashes ending in a spinning attack called the Spirit Round Slash. Landing a Spirit Round Slash increases the spirit gauge by 1 level. Alternatively, you can get to the Spirit Round Slash by holding R2 anytime after an attack to start a Spirit Charge and waiting for your attack to charge up all the way before releasing and making contact with a monster. In order to execute a Spirit combo, you will need to spend Spirit. This is represented by filling the interior of the Spirit gauge. That's fairly simple to build. Any attack with triangle and circle will build Spirit, so the basic rotation of Longsword will focus on using your face button combos to build Spirit, and then spending your Spirit with R2 to execute a combo ending in a Spirit Round Slash. Another way to increase your spirit gauge is by landing counterattacks. The most basic of these is the Foresight Slash counter, which you do by pressing R2 and circle during a combo just before a monster's attack lands. If you time it right, you will negate the incoming damage and launch a counterattack. Press R2 again to launch a Spirit Round Slash. Just know that if you don't successfully land your counterattack, that you will lose any spirits stored in your spirit gauge, adding an element of risk-reward. Lastly, you can focus strike wounds on monsters. Every wound you break with your focus strike increases your spirit gauge by 1 level, which makes this a solid option when you want to instantly get your level up without waiting to pull off a spirit combo or counter. Once you've increased your spirit gauge level 3 times, you will enter the red spirit gauge state. Your basic attacks will be massively empowered during this time, and you'll want to get in as many attacks as possible while this is active. Your spirit will drain over time while this is active, returning you back down to spirit gauge level when it runs out. While you can't generate spirit with standard attacks, your spirit attacks no longer drain the gauge, so you can use them as much as you like. You can use a spinning Crimson Slash, which replaces the Spirit Round Slash in the red gauge state, or a successful counter from Foresight Slash in order to generate spirit a limited number of times. One important combo you'll want to learn is the Spirit Thrust using R2 and Triangle, which launches you into the air, followed by hitting R2 again to hit the Spirit Helm Breaker. Doing this consumes a level of your spirit gauge in exchange for a large burst of damage. The best time to hit this is in your red gauge state, right before running out of spirit. If you are feeling particularly aggressive, you can take it a step further and burn a second spirit gauge level by adding the new Spirit Release Slash by hitting R2 again after the Spirit Helm Breaker at the end. This combo finisher is only available when you do the attack with a red gauge. The other unique quirk of the Longsword is the draw attacks. If you press R2 and X in the middle of a combo, you will perform a special sheath. From here, you can press triangle to launch an EI slash, or R2 to perform the EI slash counter. The former is a fast attack that causes your spirit to charge over time, while the latter functions like the Foresight Slash counter, except it raises your spirit gauge level automatically if it lands. It also flows straight into the third hit of the spirit combo, which, in turn, sets you up to hit another Spirit Round Slash and gain another spirit gauge level. The Longsword has a lot of moves to master, but if you can get a handle on building up your spirit gauge level and making the most of your red gauge, you should have no problem keeping up during hunts. The Longsword is a fairly proactive weapon, focusing less on fixed combos and much more on fluid attacks. Your triangle loop is a powerful but slow combo that generates a large amount of spirit. Conversely, your circle loop is very fast, but weaker and generates a smaller amount of spirit. Alternating triangle and circle, meanwhile, is a solid middle ground. The best basic combo will be triangle, triangle, R2, circle, R2, circle, R2, R2. This builds spirit in between the attacks of your spirit combo and allows you to increase your spirit gauge quickly. This will allow you to build spirit and raise your level by 1 stage when starting from 0 spirit. During your attacks, keep an eye out for opportunities to activate your Foresight Slash. The damage negation is key for survivability, and the instant boost to your spirit gauge is much faster than any blade combo at getting you to the red gauge state. When you hit your spirit round slash, there is a pause before you can start your combo again. However, if you immediately go into special sheath after the round slash hits, you can follow it up with triangle, R2, circle, R2, R2. This combo will take advantage of the spirit regeneration of the ice slash and let you level up your gauge again when you hit the spirit round slash at the end. Just be aware it does require a very small amount of starting spirit after the round slash in order to be able to pull it off. Finally, once you are in the red gauge state, focus on looping triangle, 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 circle, triangle, 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 circle. This will maximize your DPS and minimize time between attacks. If you're going to use a spirit combo, save it for when you are confident you will hit with each swing so that you can take advantage of regenerating some spirit after the Crimson round slash at the end. Make sure to save some time to hit your spirit thrust into Helmbreaker combo to finish your red gauge time. Then repeat the whole process again until that monster is down and ready to be turned into your newest hat. As with many weapons in the Monster Hunter series, the nuance is what gives life to the weapon, and the longsword is no different. Foresight Slash is your most important move. Mastery of this will keep you alive and get your gauge up quickly. Learning monster timings and movesets is particularly important for mastery of this weapon, as its familiarity means you'll have the highest chance to know how to predict and time the Foresight Slash. Similarly, you'll want to focus on using Foresight Slash against monster roars and enrages as often as possible, as it's essentially free damage and spirit where the monster will otherwise not be doing anything else. It can be a good tactic to focus on the quicker circle attacks over the stronger but slower triangle attacks, since it gives you more opportunity to respond to monsters where you might otherwise take a hit or miss your window for a Foresight Slash. Similar to Foresight Slash, mastery of your special sheath is also core to your gameplay, even if it's not quite as strong as it was in previous Monster Hunter entries. Special sheath lets you cancel the recovery after spirit round slash and maintain continued offense, while the spirit generation from the EI slash and the fast counter from the EI spirit slash are important for ensuring maximum spirit gauge gain. As tempting as it may be to focus strike wounds as soon as you see them, it's typically better to leave them be for a while. This lets you take advantage of the bonus damage they create, and you can time focus striking them for when you need to boost your spirit gauge level, like right after you drop out of your red gauge mode. Finally, and this is a universal tip for adapting to wilds, be sure to be in the focus state as often as possible. This hands complete camera control over to your hunter, meaning repositioning is now much less of a factor when fighting large monsters, as you'll be able to essentially spin and pivot to always face monsters while fighting under them. This means that you'll no longer miss spirit round slashes because the monster moves slightly away. It might be worth switching focus mode to a toggle so that you can simply activate it without having to hold the button down, but that's a matter of personal preference. See what feels right for you. Outside of the weapon itself, how you equip your hunter can have a big impact on how effective your longsword build is. In general, anything that helps you reach and maintain a high spirit gauge is worth considering. Two of the best weapon skills for the longsword are Focus, which increases the fill rate of your spirit gauge, and Power Prolonger, which lets you maintain your high-powered state for longer. Flare makes it easier to create wounds, and since destroying wounds gives you a full bar of spirit gauge, can be another handy option to increase your max spirit uptime. Skills that are tailored to drawing or sheathing your weapon affect your EI and spirit slash moves, giving them some potentially big boosts. Critical draw and punishing draw are the best ones to pay attention to. The former can give a massive increase to affinity using your drawing attacks, while the latter boosts the attack power of draw attacks while adding a stun effect that accumulates and can eventually topple a monster, leaving it vulnerable for several seconds. For armor sets, you really can't go wrong with the Guardian Arc Belt set. It's available in both low and higher rank versions, comes standard equipped with a few levels of flare, and has a very strong set bonus called Guardian Arcveld's Vitality. This grants you healing every time you destroy a wound, which, as a longsword wielder, should be pretty frequent. Solid alternate options include the Ardian set, which combines the maximum level of Flare with earplugs and tremor resistance, the Rathalos set for more invincibility frames while you dodge and a chance to proc fire damage after each attack, and the Guardian Ebony Odogaron set, which grants you a large stat boost after repeated attacks due to its enhanced burst skill. You can also mix and match these to get the exact set of bonus skills that you like best. Okay, that was a lot. But mastery of one of Monster Hunter's most iconic weapons is worth the effort. Follow these tips and you will be one with the blade in no time. For other great options to take on fearsome monsters, be sure to check out our guide to help you figure out which weapon you should choose. You can find that and more in our expansive Monster Hunter Wilds wiki. And for everything else, the place to be is IGN.